No one will witness your tears when I reveal your worthlessness, Dominic murmured as he leaned forward across the conference table in the deserted office. His tone carried that particular quietness that somehow feels more threatening than yelling. The digital display showed 7:30 a.m., and outside, dawn was still breaking, creating elongated shadows through the window blinds. I remained motionless, gripping my portfolio like armor. This performance evaluation had been deliberately scheduled at this early hour for one purpose only. I've anticipated this moment for months, he went on, tapping a substantial file bearing my name. Every error, every shortcoming, thoroughly recorded. His grin broadened as he reached for the documents. Then the main entrance burst open. Multiple footsteps resonated through the vacant workspace. Dominic's attention snapped upward, his demeanor shifting from arrogance to bewilderment. The HR director, entered with determination, accompanied by two security personnel. Ignoring Dominic completely, she walked straight to me and placed a sealed envelope before me. "Please open this, Lana," she said softly. When I did, Dominic's expression transformed in an unforgettable way from self-assurance to panic in mere seconds. Before revealing what occurred next, you must understand everything that preceded this moment. 6 months of psychological manipulation that brought me to my breaking point, the evidence I systematically gathered, and crucially, why the aftermath transformed not only my career but the entire organization permanently. My name is Lana Ashford. I've consistently been someone who follows proper procedures, the dependable team member, the problem solver. Prior to this ordeal, I spearheaded our company's most successful product debut in 5 years. This achievement secured my transfer to our premier department, where I initially encountered Dominic. From our first interaction, something felt wrong. Dominic greeted me with a rigid handshake and seemingly supportive words, yet delivered with a coldness that made me question my perception. "Pleased to have you join our team. Your achievements speak for themselves," he stated, his eyes assessing me as if I were an unwelcome complication. The initial weeks appeared routine. I familiarized myself with departmental procedures, met my colleagues Vader, Archer, and Pax, who seemed unusually guarded around Dominic. They were cordial enough in his absence, but the environment shifted whenever he appeared. Discussions ceased, and people suddenly became absorbed in their screens. It began subtly. Dominic questioned minor aspects of my reports, details too trivial to challenge. "Are you confident about this forecast? Or did you verify these calculations?" Always publicly, always with that undertone of doubt. By the third week, he started omitting me from essential email communications. "I discovered this when Vader mentioned a meeting I should attend. Didn't you receive the quarterly planning discussion thread?" she asked, surprised by my ignorance. "Must have been an accident," Dominic explained when I approached him privately. "I'll ensure your inclusion going forward." His expression, however, conveyed a different message. Cold calculation, evaluating my response. I responded as I believed. Appropriate, working harder, arriving earlier, staying later, triple-checking every document. But month 2 brought changes. During a team presentation where I outlined a new efficiency system that could save the company substantial resources, Dominic interrupted. "That's actually derived from Archer's framework from last year," he announced. To the room, 20 pairs of eyes turned to me, witnessing my confusion. Archer appeared equally puzzled, but stayed silent. "I developed this independently," I maintained composure, "but I'd welcome reviewing Archer's work for comparison. Let's proceed." Dominic dismissed, ending the topic entirely. After the meeting, I searched company archives for Archer's supposed framework. It didn't exist. Later that week, I overheard Dominic speaking with our division VP. "Lana shows promise but requires close supervision. Her attention to detail isn't what previous managers reported." The VP nodded, glancing at me through the glass conference room. The damage was complete, the pattern intensified. My system access was restricted due to security protocol updates. Projects I initiated were reassigned. My suggestions in meetings were acknowledged, then immediately reattributed to others, typically Dominic. When our department prepared the quarterly manufacturing quality assessment, I noticed troubling patterns. In our newest production line, the failure rates showed statistical irregularities suggesting potential consumer safety concerns. I documented my analysis and brought it directly to Dominic. "I'll examine these," he said, accepting my report. 2 days later, I received the final Report for team distribution. My sections had been drastically modified. The warning indicators were removed, replaced with sanitized language that concealed the problems. When I questioned this privately, Dominic's response was chilling. You're overreacting to normal variations. This isn't your previous department. We maintain different standards here. When I persisted, his tone hardened. The report is final. Distribute it as written. I did something that would ultimately save me. I preserved everything. I maintained both versions of reports, emails, and meeting recordings when permitted. I didn't understand why initially, but instinct told me to create a comprehensive record. The situation continued deteriorating. Dominic began scheduling coaching sessions that consisted entirely of criticism. My performance, communication style, even professional appearance became targets. Your presentation manner makes people uncomfortable, he claimed. Despite positive feedback from colleagues, isolation tactics intensified. Team lunches occurred without notice. Critical decisions were made in spontaneous hallway conversations I wasn't included in. When important clients visited, I was assigned urgent tasks that kept me away, Vader noticed. He did this to Thalia. Before you, she whispered one day at the coffee station. She left after for months. Couldn't endure it anymore. Why? I asked. Vader glanced around before responding. Dominic only flourishes when he's the smartest person present. Anyone who might surpass him becomes a target. By month 4, my health began suffering. Sleep became elusive. Anxiety followed me home nightly, and my appetite diminished. Friends commented on my weight loss and the circles under my eyes. I considered resigning but couldn't. My mother's progressive illness required expensive treatments not fully covered by insurance. My savings were depleting. I needed this position and its health benefits. So I adapted. I documented every interaction with Dominic, forwarded important emails to my personal account, recorded meetings when policy allowed, and built relationships with colleagues in other departments. Most importantly, I continued monitoring the production quality issue Dominic had dismissed. The turning point arrived last week. A system alert indicated anomalies in 3 consecutive production batches, exactly the pattern I'd warned about. I accessed the data directly, bypassing filtered reports, and discovered the situation had worsened. This wasn't merely about quality anymore, it represented potential consumer safety violations that could trigger regulatory action. I prepared a comprehensive analysis and requested an urgent meeting with Dominic. He rescheduled twice before finally agreeing to a brief discussion where he barely acknowledged my findings. We're aware of these variations, he said dismissively. They're within acceptable parameters. They're not, I insisted. The clustering pattern indicates systematic failure. We need to halt production and investigate. His expression darkened. That would cost millions and unnecessarily alarm the board. This remains within the department until we have more data. But consumers could. That's my final decision, he interrupted. Your persistence on this is concerning, Lana. Perhaps we should discuss your fit within this team. The threat was unmistakable. The next morning, I received the email scheduling my performance review for AM with the subject line, Comprehensive Performance Evaluation Mandatory Attendance. The body contained just one line, early scheduling. Ensures privacy for what will likely be an emotional conversation. When I showed the email to Vader, her face paled. He sent Thalia a similar message before she left. That evening, I made my decision. I compiled every document, email, and recording I'd collected over 6 months, organizing them into 3 categories: personal harassment, professional sabotage, and most critically, the production quality cover-up. After reviewing everything twice, I sent the entire package to 3 recipients: the company's legal counsel, the board's ethics committee, and ERA in HR. My message was simple. I believe these documents demonstrate a pattern of behavior violating company policies and potentially regulations governing product safety. I'm scheduled for a performance review tomorrow that I have reason to believe will result in my termination based on fabricated performance issues. I request immediate intervention. I send it at 8:40 p.m. By 9:17, I received a brief response from ERA. Received. Do not discuss with anyone. Attend the meeting as scheduled. That night, I barely slept. I prepared for the worst: unemployment, damaged reputation, potential retaliation. I rehearsed what I would say when Dominic attempted to terminate me, updated my resume, and packed personal items, ready to exit with dignity. What I didn't prepare for was what actually occurred. As I stood in that conference room at 7 a.m., watching Era hand me that envelope while security positioned themselves near Dominic, I felt something unexpected, not triumph or relief, but a strange emptiness mixed with validation. The envelope contained a letter acknowledging receipt of my evidence, confirmation that an investigation had begun immediately upon my email's arrival, and most surprisingly, a temporary reassignment to work directly with the executive team on a special project. What is the meaning of this? Dominic demanded, standing so abruptly his chair rolled backward. Era's expression remained professional but unyielding. Dominic, we need to continue this conversation in my office. Security will escort you. This is ridiculous, he sputtered, looking from Era to me. Whatever she's told you is fabricated. Her work has been substandard since she arrived. I have documentation. Yes, Era interrupted. We've reviewed your documentation. We've also reviewed the unaltered originals she provided. The discrepancies are concerning. The color drained from Dominic's face. You can't possibly. We've also received the production quality reports, Era continued. Both versions. The board has ordered an immediate halt to production line 3 pending investigation. Understanding dawned in his eyes. His gaze snapped to me, no longer dismissive, but filled with something new, fear. Please proceed to my office, Era said firmly. Lynn from the executive office will meet you upstairs in 15 minutes. Take some time if you need it. As security escorted Dominic out, he turned back once. This isn't over, he said, quiet enough that only I could hear, but looking into his eyes, I knew differently. It was over for him. What happened next shocked even me. The investigation revealed patterns I hadn't fully grasped, connections that explained Dominic's behavior, and consequences that would reshape the entire company. Most importantly, it taught me about power, both the kind that destroys and the kind that heals. After security removed Dominic, I sat alone in the conference room, hands trembling slightly as I reread the letter. The silence felt strange after months of constant anxiety. When the executive director's assistant arrived precisely 15 minutes later, she possessed a quiet confidence I immediately respected. The board is convening an emergency session, she explained. They'd like you to present your findings directly. Walking through the executive floor felt surreal. 12 hours earlier, I'd been preparing for termination. Now, I was being escorted into a room where company decisions affecting thousands of employees were made. 8 people sat around the table, including CEO Meredith. I recognized most from company announcements but had never met them personally. For 90 minutes, they asked detailed questions about my documentation. I explained the production line issues, showing statistical patterns and potential consequences. Why didn't you bring this to us sooner? Asked one board member. I followed protocol, I replied, maintaining eye contact. I reported to my supervisor. First, when he dismissed the concerns, I gathered more evidence before escalating. Meredith nodded. You did everything correctly. What concerns me is how many others might have been silenced before reaching this point. The investigation moved with unexpected speed. By afternoon, they'd interviewed Vader and Archer. By evening, they'd spoken with 6 former employees who had worked under Dominic. 2 days later, I learned the full extent of their discoveries. Era invited me to her office where Meredith joined us. We've uncovered something systematic, Era began. Dominic maintained 2 sets of personnel files, the official ones in our system and private ones he kept encrypted on his personal drive. Meredith continued. His private files contained altered performance metrics, manipulated peer feedback, and edited meeting recordings. He specifically targeted employees with high potential ratings from previous managers. But why? I asked. What possible benefit? Department performance bonuses, Era explained. Our compensation structure rewards departments that improve year over year. If Dominic drove out high performers before they could contribute significantly, he could bring in replacements, set them up to underperform, then gradually improve their metrics. This created the appearance of successful leadership, Meredith added. His department always showed improvement curves that impressed senior leadership, but the baseline was artificially lowered first. That's disturbingly calculated, I said. It gets worse, Era replied. The production quality issues you identified connect directly to his bonus structure. The quarterly quality metrics affected his performance evaluation. By hiding the problems, he maintained his perfect record. I felt sick. So he risked consumer safety for a bonus? Approximately $87,000 annually, Meredith confirmed. We've identified 16 employees over 4 years who experienced similar treatment. 4 filed complaints that were mysteriously resolved with minimal investigation. How was this missed for so long? I asked. Meredith's expression darkened. He had protection. The previous HR manager was his university classmate. We're investigating whether that relationship compromised earlier complaints. The following week brought rapid changes. Dominic was terminated, of course. The company issued formal apologies to me and other affected employees. Production Line 3 underwent complete re-evaluation, resulting in a voluntary recall of products. Costly but necessary. Most surprisingly, I was asked to lead a new internal quality assurance team reporting directly to the board. Bypassing traditional management structure, my first assignment, review all departments for similar patterns. Archer approached me in the break room a few days later. I should have spoken up when he claimed my non-existent framework was the basis for your proposal. I knew it was wrong. Fear is a powerful silencer, I replied. He cultivated it deliberately. He told me once that I was on a performance improvement plan, but it never appeared in my official file, Archer continued. He used it to justify excluding me from projects. I believed I was failing. Similar conversations followed with other colleagues. Patterns emerged of isolation, manipulated feedback, and psychological tactics designed to create self-doubt. Dominic hadn't just targeted potential rivals, he'd created an environment where everyone felt vulnerable and no one trusted their own perceptions. 2 weeks after that morning confrontation, I received a message from Thalia, one of Dominic's previous victims, wanting to meet for coffee. We sat at a quiet cafe near the office. She looked nothing like her company photo, more confident, more present. When HR contacted me about Dominic, I couldn't believe someone finally caught him, she began. I've been following the recall announcement. That was your discovery? I nodded. Though I never expected it would lead to all this. I found quality issues too, she revealed, in an earlier production line. When I brought it to Dominic, he explained them away. Then my performance reviews suddenly tanked. I started questioning my own competence. That's exactly what he did to me, I said. I heard you kept records, she said. Smart. I wish I had. It wasn't strategy initially, I admitted. Just instinct. Thalia smiled. Well, your instincts changed everything. The company called me yesterday with a formal apology and an offer to return with back compensation for lost bonuses. 4 others received similar calls. I felt a ripple of satisfaction. Are you considering it? Actually, yes. The new management structure sounds promising. She hesitated. There's something else you should know. After I left, I reported my concerns about the production quality to the Consumer Protection Agency. My eyes widened. You did? Anonymous tip. They opened a preliminary investigation but closed it when they couldn't access internal documents. With the voluntary recall, they've reopened the case. The implications hit me. Dominic could face regulatory penalties, not just termination. Exactly, she continued. Regulatory violations follow you forever in this industry. Her expression held no sympathy. Some actions deserve permanent consequences. When I returned to the office, Era was waiting. For me. We've received notice of a regulatory investigation, she said. They're specifically requesting all communications from Dominic regarding production quality over the past 3 years. What does that mean for the company? I asked. We're cooperating fully. The voluntary recall helps our position. The focus seems to be on individual accountability rather than corporate penalties. She studied my expression. You don't seem surprised. I suspected it might happen, I answered truthfully. The violations were serious. Well, there's more. The board reviewed our communication protocols after this incident. We're implementing a new anonymous reporting system that bypasses direct supervisors. She handed me a folder. They'd like you to oversee its development the following months. Transform the company culture. The new reporting system identified 2 other managers with concerning patterns, though none as severe as Dominic's. Mandatory training programs on psychological safety and ethical leadership were implemented. Most importantly, employees who had left under suspicious circumstances were contacted and offered reconciliation. 3 months after that meeting, I received an unexpected email from a law firm representing Dominic. He was seeking a letter of reference as part of a settlement negotiation with the company. In exchange, he would drop potential claims of defamation. I forwarded it to legal without responding. Their reply was swift. The company will not be providing references nor entertaining settlement discussions regarding factual reporting of documented misconduct. Later that day, I learned Dominic had taken a position with a smaller competitor in another state, one apparently unaware of the regulatory investigation. 2 weeks after that, the regulatory findings became public record. The competitor terminated him immediately. The most meaningful moment came 6 months after that fateful morning. Meredith called me into her office and slid a folder across her desk. The board approved a new executive position focusing on workplace integrity and quality assurance. We'd like you to consider it. The role represented everything I'd fought for: accountability, transparency, and systematic protection against abuse of power. It also came with resources to implement real change. Why me? I asked. There must be people with more experience. Experience isn't what we need, Meredith replied. We need someone who recognized a systemic problem, documented it methodically, and had the courage to report it despite personal risk. Someone who demonstrated integrity when it was hardest to do so. I accepted the position the next day. 1 year after Dominic scheduled that meeting, our company received an industry award for ethical leadership. The production line issues had been fully resolved with enhanced quality control processes that became the new standard. 5 of Dominic's previous targets had returned to the company in advanced positions. As for Dominic himself, the regulatory penalties included a 5-year industry ban. His professional reputation never recovered. I heard through industry contacts that he eventually took a position far below his qualifications in an unrelated field. The systematic destruction he had inflicted on others' careers ultimately became the blueprint for his own downfall. The sweetest part: I never once had to lie, exaggerate, or manipulate. I simply preserved the truth he tried to bury and ensured it reached those who needed to see it. His own actions did the rest. In my new executive role, I established a mentoring program specifically designed for employees recovering from workplace trauma. We called it the Phoenix Program, helping people rebuild confidence after having it systematically dismantled. Thalia became one of our first mentors. During a leadership conference where I presented our new ethics framework, someone asked if I felt satisfied with how everything resolved. Justice and revenge aren't the same thing, I answered. I didn't want revenge. I wanted protection for myself and others. I wanted accountability. The fact that his own actions led to his downfall wasn't my goal, but it was perhaps the most fitting conclusion. Afterward, a young manager approached me. I'm currently documenting a similar situation in my department. Hearing your story gives me courage. That's when I realized the true impact wasn't just about one toxic supervisor being removed. It was about breaking a cycle of silence that protects workplace abusers. It was about creating a blueprint for others to follow. The company culture transformed. Employees now regularly share concerns without fear. Managers understand that building others up rather than tearing them down leads to better outcomes for everyone. Most importantly, no one starts their day with the dread I experienced for those 6 months. The early morning meeting Dominic scheduled to break me became the catalyst for rebuilding not just my career, but an entire workplace ecosystem. His words, "Nobody will hear you cry," proved prophetic in a way he never intended. There were no tears that morning, only the sound of justice finally arriving. And it all began because I trusted my instincts enough to document everything, even before I understood why. Have you ever witnessed or experienced workplace bullying? How did you handle it? The sad reality is that many people suffer in silence, unaware of their options or afraid of consequences. If this story resonated with you, remember that workplace justice matters. Sometimes, seeing someone else stand up to abuse is exactly what we need to find our own courage. Remember, documentation is your strongest ally. The truth, preserved carefully, has power that manipulation can never match. If you're currently experiencing workplace harassment, consider reaching out to your HR department, legal counsel, or relevant regulatory bodies. You don't have to face it alone, and your voice matters.